Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with a video.
I've been raised by a single mom who was ditched by her boyfriend because he was not ready to take the responsibility for a child. My mom wanted to have a kid and tried to convince her boyfriend, who seemed convinced until my mom's delivery and then disappeared once and for all. My mom had never worked before that, but when she was left alone with such a huge responsibility, she had to think of a way. Mom tried to ask her brothers for help, but they abandoned her, so my mom had to do everything herself. She had rented a space that was in its worst condition because she couldn't afford a better space. Even she was not able to pay the rent for that crib sometimes. My mom would go for several odd jobs, and still we were not able to afford a standard life. Her life was quite hectic, and whenever she was overstressed, she used me as her punching bag. She would curse me and tell me that I was the reason for her state. So many times I had heard from her that if she had not conceived me, she would have lived a better life. I appreciated her efforts and the way that she worked hard to raise me, but how could her violence be justified? I was in high school when I decided to work. I applied for several jobs and got hired as a waitress. It was a well-paid job, and I was happy that I would be able to help my mom with our finances. I went home and told Mom that I was hired, which made her glad, and she announced that she was going to resign from her job tomorrow. I was stunned. I asked her why she would give up on her job, as if we both worked, we could improve our circumstances to such an extent. But she told me that she had worked a lot all of her life and was exhausted. As I was hired and was going to earn onwards, she was going to rest. My mom resigned the next day and told me that I had to take responsibility onwards. The same year, my mom got involved with a guy and started dating him. Meanwhile, I was managing my studies along with the job. As I was the only one who was working, our living conditions did not improve that much. My mom would ask for money now and then to buy gifts for her boyfriend, and if I declined, she would lose her temper. One fine day, she came to me and told me that she was moving in with her boyfriend. I was sort of happy because I would not have to deal with her bad tempers and hopefully would not have to give her money to waste on things for her boyfriend. I told her that I was happy for her and wished her a great life. I finished high school and then enrolled in college. I kept working till I got my degree and then started looking for professional jobs. I applied for several jobs and succeeded to land one almost in a year. I had worked hard in that company for almost 3 years when I decided to take a home loan to buy my own place. This was a dream for a long time. I was successful in my attempt and was finally able to purchase a house. Meanwhile, my mom was still busy with her personal life and would come to see me once in a while. When she came to know that I was buying a house, she seemed very excited and congratulated me. She told me that she wished that she was able to move in with me, but her boyfriend would not let her. I told her that it was okay and she could come and stay for a night or two. My mom visited me on a couple of times and loved my house. She was impressed and told me several times that she wanted to stay with me. One day, my mom called me and told me that she wanted to move in with me. I told her that she was most welcome and could come whenever she wanted to. My mom told me that she had to talk about something important and would see me in the evening. My mom came to my house and told me that she wanted to move in, but there was a problem. She told me that she could not leave behind her boyfriend and that I could allow both of them to move in with me. I told her that it was not happening because it would make me awkward in my own house, and also my mom's boyfriend was a complete stranger to me. I had only seen him in the photos and I had never actually met him. I told her I could not allow him, and if she could not leave him behind, she could stay with him and could see me once in a while, just like before. There's an update, guys. My mother agreed and did not press me to let her boyfriend live with her in my house. I thought that she understood my situation, and that was great because only a few times in my life my mom had really tried to understand me. Almost 8 months later, my mom called me and was crying bitterly. She told me that she had broken up and was moving in with me. I told her that she was most welcome and could come any time she liked. My mom came that evening with her stuff and told me that there was more stuff that needed to be transported. I made arrangements and brought in all her stuff. I had no problem with my mom moving in with me, but I knew I was going to be under supervision from then on. I had been living alone for almost a decade now, and it was difficult for me to share my space with someone, and that too permanently. Just to mention that my mom is a very bossy person and wants to control everything. She sort of took control of my house, and I did not try to stop her, as I knew that she was already hurt and I could not make her feel worse. A couple of months passed like that, and one evening while we were watching TV, my mom told me that a house like mine was her dream for a long time. I told her that whatever was mine was hers, and she promptly said that if that was so, I would have gifted the house to her. I was shocked and looked at her in amazement. She started weeping and told me that she had worked hard since my dad had dumped her and that no one was there to help her. She went on and said that whatever she had, she spent on me and only cared for my bright future. I told her that I was grateful to her and appreciated her efforts, but it was my hard-earned house. My mom talked about it a few minutes more and told me that she wished she owned a house like that. She would talk about all the sacrifices that she had made and the efforts that she had put to raise me. One evening, while talking about the same topic, I felt like I was her only family, and if she was expecting something from me, she was right, because who else was there from whom she would expect? I told her that I would give her the house if it was a dream of hers, as whatever was mine was hers too. She was very glad and hugged me so tight. She told me that I was the best daughter and deserved the best in the world. A couple of weeks later, my mom asked if I had transferred the ownership of the house. I told her that some legal proceedings were pending and the house would soon be transferred to her ownership. Just a few days later, my mom told me that as she was the owner of the house, I had to pay rent if I chose to stay there. I thought she was kidding and laughed out loud, but her expression was stern. She told me that it was her property and she could demand rent, which I was obliged to pay. I ignored her and left for the office, but when I returned in the evening, she repeated it while we were having our dinner. I realized that she was serious and asked her if she was asking for ownership so that she could treat me like that. She told me that she had spent all her life raising me and the house was her right. I told her that I had already agreed with her and was ready to transfer the ownership, but asking me for rent was absurd. She said that I was using her property and I had to pay for it. I told her that if she tried to play that mean bitch here, I would not take much time to show her the place that she belonged to. My mom was not ready to give up and kept on insisting that I pay her rent. I told her that she was just wasting her time, as I was not a little kid anymore who could be manipulated in some way. My mom would repeat this several times a day, and it was now getting on my nerves. I told her that if she wanted me to pay for her rent, she was the one who was going to repay the loan. This cooled her down a little bit. A couple of days later, I came to know that she had not broken up with her boyfriend and was still in contact. I read her chat, and she had told him that she would make me pay the rest soon, or she would kick me out once she had gotten the ownership of the house. That was it. I instantly filed a report at the police station and let the police deal with my mean mom. She got arrested the same evening and was yelling at me that I was the worst daughter while the cops were dragging her out of my house. I told the cops that they had to take some action against her boyfriend too. I told her that it would not take long for me to teach her a lesson. NTA, OP had been a very brave girl from a very young age. Kids going through such situations and being neglected by parents often grow up with different mental disorders, but the OP was one of the strongest who did not give up and made her dreams come true. She was so nice and welcoming, but was being exploited. So whatever she did was for her own good, and she was pushed to react that way. So AP is not at all the a-hole. NTA. I pitied OP's mom in the start, as she was left alone with a huge responsibility, but somehow managed the situation. Still, treating OP the way that she was treated in her childhood cannot be justified. She should not give up on her job. If not for OP, at least for her own self. The way she plotted against her own daughter was awful. She just wanted money from her daughter and also the ownership of her hard-earned house. Such a pathetic woman.
Next story.
My brother and my family have always had some unknown issue with my husband. They don't like him so much, but they're willing to provide when needed. We lost our apartment because of debt, so my family offered to take us in. My husband was excluded from going out with the family under the excuse of, "Your husband is working, so he could save the money for an apartment. We don't want to distract him." My brother's wedding was some days ago. I was told to let my husband stay home because, again, he needs to keep working so we can get our own place. Even though my husband said he had free time, I didn't want to leave him behind. I told Mom that I didn't want to go unless my husband came along. We either go together or we stay together. Mom was having none of it. She said, "This is my brother's wedding. If I miss it, the entire family will be upset with me." I caved in after a lot of pressure. Here's what I did. Since I didn't want to be there but had to go, I just isolated myself and refused to engage in any activity, nor take pictures, nor take part in the toast. Instead, I became somewhat hostile towards my family and had a frown on my face. Basically, was so out of the mood that it affected others. My brother tried to take pictures with me, but I declined. They invited me to join the dance floor, but I refused. Mom came to me and said I was behaving terribly, like a child that didn't want to come. I told her, "This is me at the wedding," they insisted. I attend without my husband. She started berating me, calling me pathetic to bring a bad vibe and ruin the atmosphere of my brother's wedding, and make the guests comfortable, all because I'm butthurt that my husband couldn't come. Dad started asking me questions about whether my husband is giving me grief about it and if I was afraid of his fury. I ignored them and remained silent and kept a frown on my face. After the wedding ended, Mom said it was shameful and disgraceful that I behaved this way as my brother's only sibling. I said I ruined the wedding in a way and will still have to apologize for acting juvenile. I went inside the room and shut the door. My husband said he understood my frustration but insisted that I should have just enjoyed myself and tried to not get my family upset with us. AITA? ESH. Accept your husband, your brother, for that weak reasoning at not inviting your husband. If your husband is too busy working, he'll decline the invitation. There's no reason not to extend one. We went even though you didn't want to go. You're old enough to be married. You're old enough not to be somewhere you don't want to be. Instead, you attend and make sure your displeasure and anger were visible. That is far worse than simply not going. Don't be a Debbie Downer at a wedding because you didn't have the courage to decline the invite that excluded your husband with weak reasoning. Your mother for harassing you into going when it was 100% your decision to make. YTA, because I'm willing to bet there's a good reason your entire family dislikes your husband. And since you said they asked whether you were scared of him, that makes me think that you aren't telling the full story to make sure your actions sound reasonable. Either way, it was your brother's wedding, one of the most important days to him, and you should have respected that. He didn't want your husband there. It's his day, and you had the option to not go. You're not a toddler. You can make your own decisions, and you decided to act like a child in front of everyone.
Next story.
I'm a 31-year-old female, and my partner, Josh, is 29. Mom is 51. Dad is 60. We were invited to a dinner with my sister Lily, 29, her boyfriend Adam, 35, and his parents. A bit of background. I come from a very working class family and I'm not ashamed of it. Adam's parents are doctors. Now, this happened last week and it has been playing on my mind. So we all meet up and straight away Adam's parents start to treat Josh differently. Half white, half Caribbean. We ignore it and carry on as the mood was a little dampened and I was a little annoyed, but I enjoyed myself for the sake of sister. There were a few drinks, Lily, Josh, and I do not drink. Adam's mom then gets a little too drunk and starts belittling Adam due to his new job. She said to him, "Why are you such a disappointment to the family? Your new boyfriend is a big man." I was really annoyed by that statement because, number one, I'm working class. He has a job. Both his mom and dad treated my boyfriend differently. Everyone just stopped and was shocked by the mom's statement. His dad did not say anything, just agreed with his mom. I then turned to Adam and said, "Wow, your new job is a bin man. That's cool. It's going to pay and a pension too. Thank you for keeping our streets clean." Adam's mom gave me the death stare. I smiled at her and carried on talking to Adam. My family then started asking him more questions about his job and asked what the weirdest thing was that he found. He said it was a sex toy, ripped up probably by a dog. We kept laughing and joking about it and even asked how big the rats were in the dump. My family just ignored Adam's parents and they then started coughing loud and tapping for attention. My dad looked over and said, "You're welcome to join in the conversation." They then threw money on the table and stormed off. We continued the night without them and enjoyed ourselves. I later found out that Adam's parents were fuming and berated Adam and said that I am banned from every event. I found out it was because I embarrassed them by saying what I did. AITA? NTA. And I guess you're all too young to remember the strike in NYC. Trash was all over, highlighted how important it is to collect it properly. Kudos on your family for being cool, and up to Adam to put his parents in their place. People sitting on their high horse, being doctors and belittling others for their jobs, are not people you want in your life. Screw them. NTA, they should be embarrassed by their horrible behavior. I don't get why people look down on those jobs. They need to get done, and everyone would be pretty upset if they didn't. Good on you for steering the conversation in a positive direction. I did not care what job people have. I'm happy they have a job, especially in these times. I don't think you should be belittling for having a job. And if I'm honest, I did do it out of pettiness because of how rude they were being to all of us.